Nationalism. Deeply rooted in social, political, and economic tensions, it began to greatly emerge in the 19th century after the French Revolution. States believed that ethnic boundaries should coincide with political ones. After the era La Belle Époque came renewed worldwide warfare. Some historians believe that the first burst of nationalism was so strong and prominent that nationalistic movements post-World War II were less significant. However, by definition, nationalism is patriotic feelings or sentiments. While the world wars can be sometimes regarded as heavily nationalistic, it cannot be denied that there were a multitude of prominent nationalistic movements that occurred after the Second World War for both political and economic motives, including the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the massive decolonization of Asian and African countries.
Is nationalism motivated politically?
By the end of the 19th century, Arab Muslims inhabited Palestine. However, a rise of national sentiment caused a group of Jewish extremists called Zionists to want a separate state for the Jewish population of Germany. Palestine was chosen as the best candidate.
Why then was the issue taken to the UN instead of self-determination of the people?
This is the political motivation. The UN made the recommendations for the split of the state, resulting in many people being discontent with the decision, and then leading to war. The future Israeli Prime Minister, the head of one of the terrorist groups, said, "As in Deir Yassin, so everywhere we will attack and smite the enemy. God, thou hast chosen us for conquest." Politically, it was important for the Jewish population to have a homeland, so their ethnic and political boundaries could coincide. Very understandably, the Arab population already living there was very upset with the fact that their land was being taken away. The political motivation of the Jewish people was to have others take them more seriously, and having land to their name would only help. It made more sense, however, to have an outside force try and help the conquerors.
So why was this an exhibit of nationalism? Why does it trump those nationalistic movements of the past?
The nationalistic movements of the past were all within the country of the inhabitants. The nationalistic movement actually took place within a completely different country, with nationalism being the conscious intent. Prime ministers signed peace accords to end the fighting as quickly as possible in time. The Gaza Strip is still a point of contention between the two ethnic groups. This is a nationalistic movement with much more conflict than that of the late 19th century, and so it can be concluded that the political motives for the nationalism have not declined.
Okay, so nationalism has not declined politically. What about economically?
During the age of the second colonial expansion from about 1820 to the 1900s, European countries scrambled to colonize countries in Africa and Asia. While there were many revolts before the Second World War to decolonize, it wasn't until world powers went into deep debt that the revolts worked. While it is true that most colonies wanted decolonization for political freedoms, a certain degree as to why the revolts worked were because of economic benefits to the ruling country. As shown here, Great Britain's debt spiked after the Second World War and steadily went down as decolonization progressed. The country realized it was more costly to keep their empire than to let it go. Even Marxists such as John A. Hobson, who would have greatly been delighted to see the collapse of Britain prior to the World Wars, was able to recognize the problems imperialism was causing the country. What is the direct economic outcome of imperialism? A great expenditure of public money upon ships, guns, and military and naval equipment and stores. More political capital was created for countries such as Great Britain, and by means of trade and instead of control, after they decolonized. Instead of harming the economy when land was lost, the economy was actually boosted.
Wait, that doesn't make sense. The economic motives are supposed to be for the countries having nationalistic movements?
The same held true for colonies themselves. Countries such as India and South Africa knew that becoming more industrialized bore new opportunities for economic growth. Gandhi knew that industrialization all at once, as was slowly happening to India, would make it collapse on the inside. He did not want mass exploitation and believed that slow industrialization was the key. For this, India would need to be a free country and not a puppet under British rule. It could be argued that there were more economic motives for nationalism in the past, but nationalistic movements during the de-imperialization era benefited more than one country, and in the past often led to the triumph of one and the decline of another. Economic motives have certainly not declined when it comes to nationalism. Nationalistic movements have been occurring around the world since the 19th century, but it is not fair to say they have declined post-World War II. Yes, the type of movements have changed after the war, and as time goes on, there's less visible change to the map. However, the movements have not gone away, and as we dive deeper into the 21st century, it looks like nationalism is going to be a movement that is hard-pressed to stop.